Hello guys and welcome to another episode of Motoring Middle East. Except it's not your average episode of Motoring Middle East, is it? We're all obviously locked down and quarantined at home. But that doesn't mean we still can't bring you some content. So today we're going to do something a little different. I had a chance to actually chat with my old colleague Shahzad. You of course remember him. He did all those wonderful videos for us for so many years. My former partner and still a very dear friend. So we had a nice little chat about the Cannonball Run, what sort of cars you'd buy during a pandemic, and lots of other mad, zany things as we normally do. It's about 30-35 minutes, so sit back, open a nice cool beverage or something, and enjoy. In regards to regular videos, I've still got some more stuff coming up, so you will be seeing more of that over the next coming weeks. I have a backlog, obviously, and now I have plenty of time to finish it. In the meantime, I hope you're all staying home, staying safe, and most importantly, staying locked to us. Enjoy.
Imthishan, how you doing?
Good, how are you doing, Shahzad?
All right. Oh my goodness, I miss you, buddy. How long has it been? I can tell you. I can tell you exactly how long it's been. 1 year, 4 months, and 13 days.
Wow. Is that how long Skype says between the last phone call and now?
Yeah. Oh dear, oh dear. How's it going? How's the lockdown over there?
It is pretty good. The government's doing a great job of making sure everybody is staying indoors and out of trouble. And hopefully they continue to do that for a little bit longer while we just wait it out.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? Over there, I think you're doing a better job than over here. Because over here, it's like a semi-lockdown. It's like a please lockdown. Please don't go out. You know. And
It's not working though, is it?
no, it's not. It's not really good enough, honestly. It's like I think, honestly, sometimes because I sit next to the window and I look out and I'm like, now it's weird now because the weather was fantastic earlier on, and suddenly it's gone overcast, and we had a bit of rain, even a bit of hail just now, and a bit of thunder and lightning. So now people have scarpered away. But before that, they were all kind of out there, and I'm like, do you not realize what's going on? Go home, stay safe, stop doing this, you know.
First question, do you spend a lot of time looking out the window?
I do sometimes, yeah, it's sad, isn't it?
Well,
Well, especially if you're isolated at home, what are you going to do?
well, as a car person, it's the worst possible torture because you can't go and look at your cars.
No.
And you can't go out and drive any of them. And you can't
No.
go and drive anybody else's cars. So
No.
what are you going to do?
That's the worst part, yeah, especially the not driving anybody else's cars. That's that's really infuriating. Oh
And I
my
can't
goodness.
criticize. I want to criticize people for breaking lockdown, but I'm secretly like, I wish I was out there driving a car. I know you shouldn't do it, but I want to be out there driving a car. It's
Have
very
you
hard
have
to get
you
used to.
have you seen that meme that was going around on some of the Facebook forums about, you know, if you wanted to break the Cannonball Run record, now would be the time to do it? Because honestly, like you look out there and you go, wow. I mean, if it's so quiet in town, I wonder what it must be like out on the B roads and stuff.
Well, a bunch of guys just did it. Did you not hear?
Oh no, really? This is
Yeah,
news?
they did a lot. I was going to talk to you about it actually. I thought we should have had a chat about it. 26 hours, they broke the current record. And unlike anybody else who had to plan, they had to look at timetables and speeds and where the cops are and things like that. Obviously, it's very illegal. Should you give a little quick run up on what the Cannonball Run is for people who don't know?
Yeah, go on and you do it. Go on. I didn't know this had happened. Honestly, I'm quite surprised. I'd seen the meme, but I didn't know somebody had actually gone out and done it. I thought nobody was supposed to be out there. So this is
Nobody's
basically a
supposed to.
coast to coast race that originated what in the 70s
From
by
the-
Brock Yates.
From the Red Ball Garage to somewhere in LA. I can't remember
Yeah.
exactly. I can't
Yeah.
look it up. But yeah, from New York to LA.
Yeah.
And the time started off in the 70s as a bit of a fun dash. It was like a race. There was a bunch
Yeah.
of people starting off at the same
It was
time.
basically an illegal street race. Let's be honest.
That got turned into a movie eventually called The Cannonball Run.
Yeah.
The Cannonball Run 2. And then there was a third one called Speed Zone. All
We
based
don't
on the
talk
same-
about that one. We don't talk about that
I
one.
like Speed Zone.
No way! Come on!
I like Speed Because there's a Countach going.
Is that just because of what's his name that was in it? What's his name?
Who
That
was
big
it?
guy.
Candy.
Candy, yeah.
He was
I mean, he's a
driving
likable
great.
guy, but
Yeah. No, but he had a Countach skipping across the water, which is obviously ridiculous, but it was great. Yeah, so this was a real thing that ran pretty much from the 70s to the 80s. There were lots of copycat races as well. The first one was called the Cannonball Turner Coast to Coast.
wasn't it? It was called Memorial Trophy, wasn't it? Later on.
What a bunch of there's a lot involved. There's a lot of drinking.
Okay, you are cutting in and out. The internet there in Dubai is obviously also on lockdown.
Hold on.
Oh, there you
back.
are. You're back.
Yeah.
Wow. You just kind of froze there,
My
as if like lost in contemplation. You just went. That was it, but without the hands, obviously.
Brilliant. Where was I? Cannonball Run?
Yeah, so it was like the Memorial Trophy, wasn't it? At some point, I think, or something like that. You were going through what they
They
were
called
called.
it the Cannonball Baker Memorial Dash Coast to Coast Trophy or something silly
Yeah,
like that. It was a lot of people sitting in bars and coming up with crazy ideas. And there was a
yeah.
lot of cheating. It wasn't like a proper motorsport.
No,
People
exactly.
ran it for years.
No,
And the idea was, it doesn't matter what the rules were. The only
no.
thing is to start in one place, finish at the end. How you got there, whatever
Yeah,
car you used, up to you. Because the
yeah,
problem was, it didn't matter how fast your car was. It matters how
yeah.
smart you were and the tricks you used.
Exactly. Yeah. So like like cutting holes in the back of your van so that you wouldn't have to stop for lube breaks. Stuff like that. That's what would
That's the
happen.
one you remembered. That's what you remembered.
Yeah, exactly.
That,
Yeah.
that's what you first thought to the
It's
Cannonball Run.
important. Toilet breaks are important. Come on.
Well, it was. I mean, those days it was like 30 something hours. 30
Yeah.
something hours to cross the country. And they used everything from Ferraris to Trans Ams. And
Yeah.
the thing was, in those days, there weren't speed cameras. America still doesn't have a lot of
Yeah.
speed cameras. So there weren't a lot of speed cameras. So most of it was a case of evading the cops and using CB radios.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
basically Smokey and the Bandit. And
Yeah.
then some people use planes, they use spotters.
Yeah.
But by the 80s, the cops had pretty much cottoned onto it and were like,
Yeah.
stop it. Stop it.
Yeah.
Because you're endangering people. Let me be honest, it's very dangerous,
Yeah.
very risky, and it's very illegal.
We do
because
not condone or encourage street racing of any kind.
We do not also wish that we'd been born in the 70s when you could do so.
Yeah, exactly.
But
exactly.
the thing is, when you do
But
a
before
race
you get
like
on,
this,
before you get on to what they've just done now, because this is news to me, I didn't know they'd just done it. But I just because this is a very nice segue. Because so anybody else watching, go to my Patreon account now and check it out because I've just put some content there, which is essentially my kind of take of a kind of a parody sequel of that original Cannonball Run movie. So yeah, so go check it out. Patreon.com/Shahzad Sheikh. There's my plug there, which very handily
you
yeah.
should. You should definitely support Shahzad. I think the thing about the race like that in those days was it was also about the characters and the parties and the sense of lawlessness.
Yeah.
It was sticking it to the man.
Yeah.
Today, you can't do any of that. There are a lot more cops. They are not only just local cops, they are state troopers who can pursue you across state lines.
Yeah.
You have weather to contend
Oh, so that old thing that they used to have in old movies where I've crossed the straight line now you can't catch that doesn't apply anymore.
No, not really. There are state troopers who are pretty much federal police and they can
Right.
catch you.
Oh right, so much for that idea.
Yeah, but they also have things called radios. They can just radio to the next state.
True. No,
Yeah,
I mean to be
so-
honest, this is the thing. Like in this
It's a
day
great
and
thing.
age,
It's a good thing,
like
but you
something
can't
like that is just impossible, isn't it? With the cameras, the helicopters, the radars, the traffic monitoring systems, it's just impossible.
So the thing is, the worst thing that could happen to the Cannonball is that it went from being like a vaguely family fun event. I mean, it was quite serious racing in the 80s and 70s, but today it's become like a nerd festival. Like it's people using technology. So they use radar jammers to stop speed cameras. They use CB radios to monitor traffic from cops and stuff like that. They use those infrared goggles so they can drive without lights. So it's very, very
Right, so
techy.
just turn the lights off and use like night vision goggles.
The last guy who did it, who broke, there's a bunch of people, you can look it up. It's,
Yeah.
I mean, the people themselves, it's a very small community now because it takes a lot of money. The cars that did the last four, I think, were an M5, C something, S63 AMG,
My
really
goodness.
fast cars. The last was a E63, which was actually done up to look like a Honda Accord. He actually
An
changed the shape.
E63 made up to oh my god, that's like the worst
you have to
custom
Google
job
this.
in the world ever, isn't it?
Basically, he changed the shape of the back and the taped up things. Like from a distance, you can look. It looks like a sort of a mid 2000s Accord. It's quite convincing. We're
Right.
talking a couple of gens ago. So the idea was that if any store to look at, like it's just an Accord, it's like a Honda
my goodness.
debadged it. Of
That's
course, they had
bonkers.
double fuel tanks and all of that.
I'm gonna try and find a picture of that and put it on if I can find it online. There must be something, I guess.
I think what I'm trying to get across is that it was a really difficult endeavor. You had to have money, you had to have talent, and you had to have a bunch of people who are equally nuts and willing to do this now, because now it's difficult. Obviously, you have to publish GPS data of how fast you went, which leads
Yeah.
you liable to criminal prosecution.
Yeah.
So the difference today is that the guys who did it like last week just got in their car and did it because there's nobody in the roads. They're basically idiots. They
Goodness.
took an
But
Audi
how, but
S8
how
and
did they
just
get
went
away
for-
with that? How did they go that distance
There's
without
nobody on
being
the
stopped?
roads.
Well, not even
There's no-
cops. Surely there are cops on the road.
Not that many, it's thinner. And with an S8, I mean, they did the whole thing in 26 hours. Can you believe it? 26
Wow.
hours across America. The last one
Wow.
was 28 hours. 28 hours has been the hard benchmark for a while.
And what car? What car were they in?
It was a bone stock S8, I believe.
Well, there's nothing stock about an SA, but still, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, but I mean, you're talking at least 400, 500 horsepower because you need a German car. Because kind of Ronin, isn't it? You need something that's great at over 100 miles per hour. You have to average 100 miles per hour.
Yeah,
and top
it's
speed
solid
is
and
150
stable.
miles.
But it's
And
kind of sad though,
over.
isn't it? That it's not like a Camaro or Corvette or something
It's
like
all
that.
German cars. It's M5s because these cars are stable. From my point of view, I'm like, those cars are reliable enough to do like 26 hours flat out. That to me is more of a story in the Cannonball range. Like, wow, 26 hours flat out in those cars.
Well, I guess that goes back to German cars again, doesn't it? Because German cars are designed to go at high speeds continuously on autobahns. So
yeah, whereas the 75 Camaro Z28 isn't.
God.
It's just with those fat tires and like wobbly suspension. Doing 60 hours and that thing at 80 is probably terrifying.
Yeah.
That's
it's more charismatic though, isn't it? To do it in an old Trans Am, wouldn't it? That'd be kind of cool though, wouldn't it?
I think the problem is now it's become a nerd festival.
Yeah.
This is the thing. It's more about the number. Whereas I think just doing it in the old days was the adventure. I don't really care how fast it was done. It would have been nice to do it as fast as you could do legally.
Yeah.
Illegally now, it's basically guys really pushing the limits.
So in America, I mean, if you've done that and you've now declared that you've done that, can't you be done now? Can't the police just come and knock on your door and say, right, well, you've done yourself up, mate. Now, come on.
Yes, so the guys who did the last 2 times, I don't know why I'm the Cannonball expert all of a sudden, but the guys who did it before waited a year. So the statute of limitations had expired.
Oh,
The
right.
last guy didn't wait a year, but he gambled that most policemen are just like, oh, we don't care. You got in and out of my state, I don't care. If I didn't catch you, I didn't catch you.
Tell you what, though, it opens it up to other people having a go, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's nothing stopping you taking a press car from New York to...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you happen to be in, so any journalist listening to this who happen to be in New York, there's a story to be written. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but the risk is insane. The risk is absolutely insane because you're pretty much going 26 hours as fast as you dare.
Yeah.
Like, that is not an easy thing to do because you need to have a second driver. You have a second driver that you don't want to kill after 13 hours. You need to have a third driver basically monitoring traffic. Like last time they were using blockers, they were using people in each state who done interference and distract the cops and stuff like that. So there were a lot of people trying a lot of things.
That's the subject of basically Smokey and the Bandit, isn't it? Because that was the whole thing that happened in Smokey and the Bandit, where Burt Reynolds in the Trans Am was running as a blocker, so try and distract the police and stuff like that, so that the truck could keep going.
So the trouble is, the guys who do it now, I don't look much like Supercars, like the thing that we said about Supercars recently. If you watch any of our other videos of 10 years ago, but Supercars aren't that interesting, and I don't like the people who drive Supercars. And these people who are breaking Cannonball now are not the kind of people I want to go and sit and have a beverage with.
No, I suppose. See, that's the thing, isn't it? Yeah, that's what I was.
The guys in the 70s have great stories.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is that you touch on the sort of the characters and the charisma and the style, and I think there was an article. I think were you still at Car when we did that? I think there was an article, and I think we ran it in Car magazine where they hooked up with Brock Yates' son. And then they drove that course again.
Before my time.
Yeah, and then they drove the course again. They did it. I think they did it in a Dodge, if I recall correctly. But they weren't out to break any records. They were just sort of retracing the steps. Could it be a fun thing to do?
Okay, good question. If you were doing Cannonball Run, what car would you take?
Well, this is the thing. I say, again, being all romantic about it. I think I would say it'd have to be an American car. So it'd have to be an American muscle car. It'd have to be a Dodge Challenger or a Mustang or something like that. Yeah, I mean, again, I might
last 26 hours.
It'd be an interesting exercise, that's for sure.
26 hours flat out, you and Harry Metcalf.
Yeah. Well, I wish I could have that one there, the blue one, because that's up for sale at the moment. 40 to 50 grand. That's an 87 Turbo 8C, or it's up for online auction at the moment, and it's a beauty. But yeah, something like that.
I wouldn't do an American car.
I think it would have
to be a Countach.
Yeah, a black Countach or a modern equivalent of that would have to be an Aventador, wouldn't it?
No, a Countach. How hard is a Countach to drive?
The Countach honestly won't make it.
It should be a glorious.
Well, honestly, the funny thing is about those Cannonball movies, because they had countesses in all three of those movies, didn't they? And they beat the crap out of them. In all three movies, So like in the second movie, they're rough roading it, and they're like, they're washing the paint off it. Like, and in the third movie, like you said, they're skipping it across water and all. And the thing is, like now, when you look at the value of contests now, and you look at that, you can't help but grimace and go, "Oh my God, you were doing that to a contest?" It's like, oh, surely it's sacrilege. You can't do that. But at the time, they were just cars, weren't they?
The thing is, even at the best of times. And I drove a very, very nice Countach recently. I won't say who it was. We can probably guess. But things go wrong with them.
Yeah.
The very best. Even just driving around, things stop working. Right?
Yeah, you can't use half the gears until you've warmed the damn thing up.
Yeah, and even then you have to keep an eye on the water. You see, the thing is, it's like maintaining a vessel. You have to be like, watch all the stations. Yeah. What is it? Audi S8 on AMG. What are you doing, really? You're just really focusing on the driving part. You're not really focusing on the car. And I think the car should be a character if you're doing something illegal, which you shouldn't, obviously.
Yeah, no,
the car
exactly.
Should be a character.
No, that's the thing. But I don't know. It's
a bunch of journals recently did across the US in a three-wheeler Morgan.
Mm-hmm. A three-wheeler Morgan.
Yeah,
but they weren't breaking any speed records, were they? They were just cruising
barely
along.
Break 50, I think, in that thing.
Yeah, basically, yeah. But that was one of the cars that sort of I know you really that was a car that you really fell in love with, didn't you? And I enjoyed it, but I was a bit uncomfortable in it because it didn't quite fit me.
You're too big for it.
Yeah, I was a bit too big for it. The guys at Morgan did claim that they could adjust it, but they never got around to doing that because they said, "Oh, we'll adjust it. You can come back and try it."
That was the end of that.
Yeah. But we sacrificed a hat to it, didn't we? You sacrificed a hat to it.
Yeah, I sacrificed my life to that car. I feel like every time I drove it, I was gonna kick the bucket.
But it was one of those cars that was like instant superstar status, wasn't it? Wherever we went.
Yeah. Not a cannonball car, but a superhero car. Absolutely. But the thing is, if you got to decide, are you going to do these things properly, or do you want to have a bit of fun? And if you're going to have a bit of fun, you want to have something silly. So silly, big motor, comfy. Go straight, because America's straight. That's what you want. So you don't need something that handles. You don't need an Austin Healey 3000. It's a waste of time.
Yeah.
You need something.
But that's the thing, though. But the trouble is, the cars now are so fast and so rapid and so good at what they do that immediately it becomes about very high speeds, very quick records, and then going for the most efficient, i.e., the German cars, or if you like, a Japanese car, to be able to do it. But then it goes back to, well, what is the Cannonball Run about? You see, so for example, if you take its modern day kind of-ish equivalent, which is like the Gumball, and the Gumball, although it's kind of like an illegal street race, it's not really. It's just an excuse to go from party to party to party. That's all that is.
Idiots. It's a bunch of idiots just partying.
But then that falls into that first category, doesn't it? That just falls into a bunch of, for want of a better word, for a bunch of rich people just having a laugh. They're just buying expensive cars and just having these big parties. It's not necessarily about.
The problem is, if you look at that thing that happened a couple of days ago in New York, where that guy lost control of the Carrera GT and just rammed into cars, and he's a founder of a Cannonball Gumball style rally event called the Gold Rush.
Right.
And he's had a lot of crashes. He's had a lot of run-ins with the law. He's basically an idiot, and I don't mind calling him an idiot because he risked people's lives. He was doing really high speeds in twisty, tight New York streets. And he's lucky he's alive. But it's not the first time he's written off expensive machinery. He wrote off 3 cars before that, apart from the Carrera GT. He's written off a Bugatti Veyron and a manual Murcielago.
Wow. And there are not many of those around.
Yeah. Not many. There was one of only 3 that came to the US that year.
Yeah, but there's not many Carrera GTs around either. And that's and to be honest, that's a very dangerous car to be driving fast anyway.
Nice segue then. Okay, Cannonball Run. I'm ashamed that we didn't actually manage to condemn it that much, because I feel like I should have got on my high horse and said this is a bad thing. But I'm like, if I could get away with it, I probably would have given it a try.
It's a tricky one, isn't it? It's a bit of a moral, ethical dilemma. It's like, on the one hand, you're like, whoa, well done, that's cool. It's like you're like, yeah, it's wrong, but you would if you could. It's sort of thing, isn't it?
And that's the thing. I am honest enough. I think you're honest enough to say we actually would have given it a try.
Yeah.
It's a risk, but nothing in life is not a risk, right?
Yeah.
Whereas there are a lot of journalists now getting on their high horse and saying you're an idiot and you're breaking quarantine and all that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, secretly, guys, you know you want to do it.
Yeah.
You want to do it.
Yeah.
And
No,
You've been
I think,
saying
but I think we should do that as well. I think yes, absolutely, they should not have done it. It is quite. I mean, honestly, like as we started this conversation, and I said I look out the window and I'm sort of condemning every individual I'm seeing outside. Going, go home. Why are you out there? So on the one hand, I think that's also correct. But like you say, secretly, I guess we all would. I mean, like I said, secretly, right now, I wish I could go out and find some, because I imagine there's some great roads not far from where I am in London. Within an hour from here, I could find some great roads that are probably absolutely empty right now. And I'm like, wow, what an opportunity!
My take is simple. The opportunity is always there to do the Cannonball Run. Just don't do it during quarantine. This is not the time.
Yeah.
Because you're risking people's lives who would need to go and do other things like save people.
Exactly.
And you said they would scrape your bum off the road somewhere. So.
No, exactly, and I think that was a point of that was made here recently.
It's almost like cheating. It's almost like cheating using the current conditions.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Yeah, I think there's two sides of it again, isn't there? Because on the one hand, if you're not going out to break any records, but you're going out just to have a nice drive, then you always try to find the quietest time anyway, don't you? Because you go, well, that's the quietest time. I'm not putting anyone else at risk. I'm going out there. I'm just going to enjoy it. But on the other hand, you just really shouldn't be out there right now.
But devil's advocates, that's like saying, the perfect time to do some donuts is outside a funeral.
Oh my
There's
God.
nobody. That's the thing. It's the same talk.
This is a bit weird. That I'm just thinking. I was just thinking actually, I wouldn't mind donuts at my funeral.
You heard it here first, people. You heard it here first. You know what he wants.
And I don't just mean the Dunkin' Donuts kind. Actually, not the Dunkin' Donuts. What's the other one? I don't like the Dunkin' Donuts. What's the other brand?
Krispy Kreme?
Yeah, that's it. I like those ones, yeah. Those ones, and then real ones with real tires and cars.
What do you care? You'll be in the coffin.
That's true, actually.
Yeah. Are you serving the food at your funeral and going, oh, I'd rather not Dunkin' Donuts? Would you get up from the coffin?
Exactly. Very specific. I need to make sure I put that in the will, yeah? Very specific instructions. It's got to be the Krispy Kreme.
Krispy Kreme, people. Krispy Kreme and Wendy's.
I'm looking to get sponsorship by Krispy Kreme for this video.
That's what we should do. The Cannonball Run brought to you by Krispy Kreme. They're never going to do it.
No. We've just blown that down.
Yeah, but I mean, this is the trouble. We have these outlandish ideas, like let's go and do coast to coast, but we shouldn't do it because we've got nothing else to do. Our brains are going rotting away from sitting at home and looking at cars instead of driving them. Yeah. But back to Carrera GT for a second. Is that a dangerous car? I think it is now. I think it's killed too many people.
I remember a Carrera GT. This is in the first few years that I was in Dubai, and one turned up at a track day at the Autodrome. And the guy basically, he took it out for I think a lap and a half. And then he basically lost it coming back onto the main straight. But there's a big runoff there at the Autodrome, just at the beginning of the main straight. So basically lost it there, didn't hit anything, thank God, but basically scared himself. And that was it, parked it up for the rest of the day, Because that car, basically, you need to be wall-to-roll to drive it. That's it. That car was for him.
You need to be the development driver.
Yeah, him. That's it. You need to be a wall-to-roll. That's it. Otherwise, don't touch it, Put it somewhere nice and look at it.
I've never wanted to drive that car because people have died in it.
Yeah.
And I think that was the beginning.
And we might as well mention very famously Paul Walker.
Paul Walker and Roger Rodas, who was the actual driver.
Yeah.
I mean, Paul, even before Paul, though, at that point, I think, when was that? Mid-2000s. Enzo, Carrera GT, and it was the Mac SLR, wasn't it? The McLaren SLR.
Yeah.
It was that era. Everything started to be around 600 horsepower.
Yeah.
But with not enough traction control and not enough computers.
Yeah.
So you were like, this is a little bit too much. For me,
but the thing is, so this is the thing. It's you very correctly divided sort of performance cars into eras because we're currently in the era of cars with a huge amount of horsepower, but then a lot of controls on the car that basically dilute that horsepower. So essentially, you can't.
Hellcat now you only get 200 or 300 horsepower at any given time.
I mean, to be fair, the Hellcat and those are actually one of the few cars that will still allow you to access most of that power. But
have you ever looked at the digital displays and tried to get to 700? It's not easy. You get 500 easy, 600, actual touching 707 or whatever, it's 800 or whatever. Very difficult, because
Very difficult. Yeah.
it just won't give you all the power. And I was pretty much matting it all the way, and it just won't. And this is on with traction, so the car's not giving it to you.
No,
Even the
and this is
Hellcat.
it. So you have these cars that basically got too much power and you can't get to it. Then you had that era where power figures suddenly went like, you remember 300 horsepower used to be a lot of horsepower, even in the
Still
90s,
is.
and then all of a sudden it suddenly shot up, like you say, up to 400, 500, 600
But the
horsepower.
computers hadn't caught up yet.
Yeah,
The test drivers hadn't caught up, but they just had the power. Like the McLaren SLR was a bit of a hairy bugger as well. If you saw
Yeah.
Clarkson spinning it on the top tier test track, Carrera GT spun a lot. The
Yeah.
Enzo looked pretty lethal as well,
yeah,
because it was basically like a race car, and they hadn't really diluted it at all. But then right after that, I think all these manufacturers realized we're going to kill our customers,
yeah,
so we need to up the software. And there was like a transition period right in the middle where nothing seemed to get made. After the Enzo, there was like a big gap
yeah,
till the next one came along. And then I think it was around the last Ferrari time when they finally figured out, you know what? We can say we're giving them 1,000 horsepower, but
Yeah.
actually what we're giving them is a fast, good-looking car.
No,
that won't
exactly,
kill them.
exactly, and bragging rights, basically.
Yeah.
In I was going to say in the pub, but it's not really pub. It's a very expensive bistro or whatever, wherever they do their bragging
Shisha
rights.
cafe.
Yeah, shisha cafes. Yeah, exactly, in the Middle
Yeah.
East. Yeah, but that's all it is. But then you go back. So you go back from the current generation. You jump over that middle generation that we talked about, where it suddenly exploded. So really, the earlier generation, when you had actual power figures that you could still use, that was the best era then. So you're talking about, power figures of less than 300 horsepower, so 200, 250. I mean, I remember having plenty of fun in my E30 325 ISE or my Toyota Supra Mark II, or is it Mark III? It's Mark II with the pop-up lights, because they had about 170 horsepower, and that was plenty.
Yeah. And I don't think the driving experience got significantly better. I mean, we both raved about that Civic Type R.
Yeah.
That has 300 horsepower.
Yeah,
That's 100 less than my truck, but it's about
Yeah.
100% more fun.
yeah,
And I think all of this stuff today, I've moaned about this at length about how much I enjoy ruining my cars. Like I have great fun with all these off-road cars,
yeah,
and then I modify them, and then I don't enjoy them anymore, and I have to sell them because
Yeah.
I'm no longer having to do anything. The car
Yeah.
does all the work.
yeah.
You just point up a dune and it goes. And then what happens after that is you kill yourself because you try to chase further and further.
Yeah,
heights.
exactly.
It
I
just
mean,
doesn't come.
it's in the words of Clint Eastwood, man's got to know his limitations, isn't it? So it's like,
That's not a word that people have said recently.
no,
Yeah.
but so you're right. I mean, actually, talking of your truck, you've hit a milestone with that, haven't you? The MME
100,000
Ram.
kilometers, 102, the MME Ram,
Oh my
the company
goodness.
runabout.
Hashtag MME
102,000.
Ram. Look it up, guys. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's and it's such a fantastic machine. That.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, right, it was built for a purpose and it doesn't have too much power. Now, do you need a 500 horsepower truck? I contend that you do not.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I probably had more fun in the 280 horsepower Wrangler than I did in the Ram.
But you know
Because I had
what?
to do
You were thinking of getting a more powerful truck, weren't you? Though.
I was thinking of getting a Raptor. It was on my to-do list. It's still on my to-do list. But then the economy happened.
Yeah. Or is it in the process of happening, I should say. Yeah, exactly.
It's very much the process of happening.
Yeah.
I love a Raptor. I'll hand on heart. I'll say that is probably the best all-round vehicle. It's like the Range Rover for rednecks.
Yeah, Range Rover for redneck. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd love,
because
you know what?
the Range Rover
I'd love to
complete car.
drive the full fat big Raptor in London. I think that would be hilarious. Just
That'd be terrifying.
because I drove the Ranger Raptor here last year. I tried that out.
Oh, any good?
Yeah, it was great. It was great. It was good fun. I went out with my buddy Kevin, and Kevin Haggerty. He's a real performance guy, so he's into sports cars, and he didn't want to drive it. He really didn't. He was like, "Do we have to?" I'm like, "Yes, we have to, because I want to try it, because I really want to have a go in it." And he was gritted teeth just getting into the car, And then we went out for a drive, and I said, "Now you've got to take over." He says, "Do I have to?" "Oh, I don't want." No, you have to." Okay, so he did it, and I'll tell you what. Within 2 minutes, he was laughing. And then he goes, "Shahzad, I get it. It's not meant to be a sports car. It's not meant to be finesse, but it's just fun. It's just entertaining. It's engaging,
And that's the thing. It doesn't matter how many cylinders on the hood or what badge is on it or whatever. It matters is what does it leave you with a grin on your face at the end of it. And that's the problem with these new supercars. None of them, and I guarantee you, any of the McLarens out there are going to leave me with a grin on my face. None of them, because they're terrifying.
Yeah.
They're way too quick.
Yeah. And it goes back to,
Well,
again, you need to be Walter Roll, you need to be Lewis Hamilton or somebody like that to actually even be able to extract what those cars can do. Whereas again, if you talk about, fortunately cars like the Civic Type R do still exist. People like us can actually, we can't get 100% out of that car, but we can get enough to have fun with it. Even cars like the car that you own, the Toyota 86, is a car that you can actually enjoy because you can still extract. People say, oh, it hasn't got enough horsepower. No, man, it's got enough. It's got enough for you to actually access it and enjoy it.
Have you got enough guts to go flat out everywhere? That's the question.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not lazy enough for you. That's the problem. GT350, my personal favorite of the last 4 or 5 years, because that was the right 500 horsepower. Didn't need more. Didn't need.
That was an awesome machine, actually. Yeah.
They've got GT500s now, and I don't want to drive.
What's that? 860 horsepower.
760. No, 760.
760 horsepower. Why? And we were all going crazy when Dodge came out with 707. And now we've got 760 in a Mustang. I don't want to. I don't want to see too many of those leaving car meets with idiots behind the wheel.
Well, in the UK, what's the equivalent of the Mustang leaving the car meet? The old Corsa leaving the Aston.
There are Mustangs here. Yeah. Because the Mustangs went on sale in Europe, and they thought, oh, we've got the 2.3 EcoBoost, so now will be the one that everybody will get. Nonsense! Everybody went for the 5-liter.
Yeah, because why would you buy a Mustang with a small engine?
Exactly. You want the V8, of course you do. You want the noise, you want the charisma, you want the style.
You look at the new Defender, you don't necessarily buy the big petrol because you actually buy the diesel because that's not a quick car, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. You just buy the diesel because it does what it's supposed to do.
But diesel sales are crashing, though. There's a real backlash against diesel. And also now petrol prices have crashed now as well. Of course, you can't go anywhere, but if you did, petrol is cheap right now.
Which is yet another crime. It's like you can't use any of that lovely cheap petrol. Dubai petrol prices are about almost to what they were 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, good time to have it. GT350s, I was looking at them actually after I didn't buy the Raptor. Just one of the Google searches that couldn't have gone. And man, prices have come down like crazy. Remember that car was close to 300 brand new?
Yeah.
You could get a 2018 for 170. And I reckon if you gave him 150, he'd probably take it right now.
Half the price in 2 years, in less than 2 years.
Because nobody's willing to, in Dubai, sadly, nobody's willing to drive a manual. And secondly, it's too hardcore for most people. I drive that every day. Who gives a shit?
Yeah. Damn. Wow. That would be worth it. That would be so worth it.
Would you buy a bone stock Mustang or would you get a GT350? Granted,
you'd get that,
it's
definitely.
Cramped, it's noisy. It's really stiff. Really, really stiff car.
So as soon as this virus ends, either you're going out and buying one, or everybody watching this video is going to go out and buy one.
They should go and get a GT350. I mean, it is legitimately like, why would you buy a GTR? I always say that. Why would you buy a GTR? Why would you buy? Although there aren't that many sports cars anymore.
Yeah.
Why? In the old days, we are like, why would you? There isn't that many options. Like Supra, would you buy a Supra?
I don't know. It didn't do it for me, honestly, if I'm absolutely honest. I really like the idea of it. I thought the styling isn't so bad. I quite like it, but I don't know. I didn't come away from it going, oh man, I've got to have that car. I suppose it's a bit unfortunate because that was the same day was also my first experience of a Civic Type R, and basically everything else paled into insignificance after that. So.
They're not even the same class at all, are they?
No, exactly. And in fact, the Civic would be Civic is about 10 grand cheaper, more than 10 grand cheaper than a Supra, and you go definitely have that. Yeah. But also Supra prices here, certainly here in the UK, is about the same as a Mustang GT, a 5-liter. You go, well, you just have the Mustang.
Would have the Mustang.
Yeah, you would.
It's more practical.
Yeah.
It's probably performance-wise slower. Who cares?
Who cares? More style, more charisma. It's the real thing, and also, like, I think for another 5 grand, you could have the Bullet Edition, which actually is one of the top sellers. That's probably the one I'd get.
Yeah. And Ford does this nice thing where they take everything from the Bullet eventually becomes the regular car.
Yeah.
So the Bullet is like a test bed for the future. So whatever the car next.
Yeah. The only thing you miss out on is the badge on the back where it says Bullet on it. But that's the only thing you miss out. But you get everything else.
Yeah. I mean, I like the idea of back to basics, simple cars, because none of these new cars with lots of text, they're all the same. They're all much of a muchness. You've driven one crossover. What was the last one you drove before you left that was really quite tedious? X2, the BMW?
BMW X2, yeah, I remember that's the one where I said it's just sort of it's just sticking its nose up at you. It's just kind of because the kidney grill was sort of bent the other way, sort of thing, and it looks like it's just sort of sticking. It's doing. You remember that guy from the Carry On movies who just stick your nose up at you? Was it
Kenneth? No, I can't remember his name. But I know
yeah,
you're
Kenneth
talking about.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Kenneth something.
Yeah.
Can't remember. It'll come to me later.
I
Kenneth
guess
Williams.
we'll
Kenneth
Google it.
Williams, right?
Kenneth Williams.
Yeah, Kenneth
Who
Williams.
also
Yeah.
was on Below the Disc.
Basically, it looked like him.
I like Kenneth Williams. He was a
Yeah.
good egg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't want him as your car, though.
I wouldn't want to
It's like,
tag
you
him
know,
by
he'd be
Kenneth
so
Williams.
condescending and judgmental every time you got in the car. Oh, you're going to the mall again, are we? It's like, you know.
But that's what you do in an X2. Like,
Yeah.
God help me if I ever have to drive around every day in an X2. Like, you really are just buying it for the badge then. But worst of all is when somebody says, should I buy an X2 or should I buy an X4 or an
Yeah.
X3 or any of these cars? And somebody asks me, I'm like, do you have to though? Do you
Yeah.
have to buy that?
Yeah.
I keep saying, it's like, do you have to buy it? Is there anything else you'd rather buy?
Yeah.
Anything else at all? And that goes for any of the Germans in the category. Like,
Well,
do you have
I
to?
will say though, because I did drive it, that if you did have to buy an SUV and you wanted a performance SUV, certainly here in Europe, the X3M was quite bonkers, like literally bonkers, and it actually was the X3M competition. And it literally, like, every time I hit the accelerator, I was like, oh,
Competition.
yeah,
X3 competition.
there's an X3M
Nonsense.
competition. I'm like, what? I don't even know what the competition bit does. But anyway, it's called the X3M competition.
So as
And every time I put it,
car race competition.
literally, it would pin you back into your seat. It was shocking. It was shockingly quick.
It's a Supra motor car. Must be a Supra motor. 3
I don't know.
liter straight sixer.
I don't know. I can't
Probably
remember what it
was.
was. I'd have to look it up.
You know, I drove the X7 and I thought, this is brilliant. This is great. I mean,
Yeah.
it's hideous,
Yeah,
but it's so good. It's like a
Yeah.
Range Rover, but cheaper.
yeah.
It doesn't go off road. Who cares?
And what
It's
do you reckon
fancy.
to that crystal gearbox? I quite like the crystal gear lever.
I didn't mind. People hated it. I didn't mind it at all.
Same
There are
here.
things I think. Yeah,
Honestly,
same,
I think
not
it's
at
a
all.
nice bit of jewelry in the car. Do you know what I mean?
I think
It's a good
Asians
talking
get it
point.
though.
It is an Asian.
I think
It's an
Asians
Asian and a
love
black
it.
thing because Kevin liked it as well. He was like, "No, that's cool."
Yeah, it's
I was
a
like, "Yeah,
good
you and me
blend.
get
It's a
it,"
good
and all the other journalists are like, "Oh, why do you need to do that?"
Yeah, okay. But okay, so since I've been looking at Type R's, I've been loitering around the Piston Heads forum. Good forum, good fun, guys. And all they do is moan about how the Type R is too loud. Oh, I couldn't bear it. I couldn't bear people looking. I'm like, why do you care what other people think? Are
Yeah.
they paying for it?
I don't care. Honestly, and then I had it for a week as well when I tested it. I drove 2 cars and I drove a third one and I had it for a week. And I tell you, after the first day, I didn't care what it looked like anymore. I really didn't care. In fact, by the
like the
second
look
day,
of it
I
now.
loved the way it looked. Because I could see it from my window where I sit here and it's parked out there. And everybody that walked past would look at it. Everybody. I was like, that's a real head turner. That's what a hot hatch should do.
Why do you want a grey hatchback?
Yeah.
I mean, but it might be a UK thing because in the UAE people like a Larry car. In America, people like a Larry.
No, it
car.
is. In the UK, it is very much like people want to be, subdued and stuff. But no, if you're going to have a hot hatch, have a hot hatch. Yeah, I mean, it needs to
the
look
thing is,
like
it's
it.
socially acceptable to have a BMW M2 in a Larry color.
In fact,
So
my
that's the right dog.
only gripe with the Civic Type R is that actually it's not loud enough in terms of the sound. I want the exhaust to be even louder.
That's easy to fix, though, isn't it?
Yeah, you could just swap it out. But I want it to bark when it starts up. I want it to tell the world that I'm a Type R and I've just started up.
I think the guys who did the exhaust for my 86 HKS also just did one for the Type R, and they make it properly scream. So
That
they
would
all
be the
open
thing
it
to
all
do
up.
then. I know I'm not into
Yeah.
modifications, but that'd probably be the one thing I would consider
It's
doing.
pretty tame. It won't change the performance in any way, shape, or
No,
form. But what it'll
just
do
makes
is
it louder.
that's the thing. I
Yeah.
mean, my truck has an exhaust. It doesn't do a damn thing.
Yeah.
But it makes it you can find it in the car park. The important thing is, if you go miles away, you can find it in the car park.
That's
There
true.
you are.
That's
There you
true.
are. Yeah,
Listen, man, I think we've got to pick this up again soon. Because I wanted to keep these to about, I think we've gone well over 30 minutes, but I think I was going to keep these to about 30 minutes. But this is, it's been fantastic catching up with you again, buddy. Let's do this again very, very soon. I'm going to upload this soon. I'll let you know. And then we'll do a few more of these.